And so sending water. It's important to have an action plan for sleeping, especially if nighttime or sleeping is something that your child struggles with ordinarily. This can be worsened in a different environment, especially if especially if the facilities are not considered as comfortable, perhaps as they are in your own home. You can consider packing a travel fan if having extra cooled air blowing onto the skin is helpful at nighttime, or for the white air, the white noise that the fan makes. As I said, most of the camps have air-conditioned bunks, but if that extra cooled air makes a difference, then there are a lot of options for that. You can consider sending a special blanket or a stuffed animal that lets them feel more comfortable, a little bit more like they're sleeping at home or someplace they're familiar. If the camper needs to wake up early for dressing changes, almost always there are alarm clocks, or someone on the medical staff will have an alarm clock, but you could consider sending a travel alarm so that your child can sort of participate in the process, helping to be responsible for some of their changes. If dry eyes or dry nose are an issue, especially at nighttime, you could consider sending a humidifier or remembering to send Vaseline or Aquaphor to use as lubrication. In the air conditioning, or certainly if you're using a fan, that can certainly dry out the skin. Some campers with EB over time have found that they benefit from starting an antibiotic before they come to camp. Certainly, all standards of hygiene are attempted to be met. It is a camp, and so it's dusty, it's dirty, you're outside, and so you're exposed to more people. And for all those reasons, put together with the fact that you're often more active than normal, some campers in the past have had infections, and so sometimes starting an antibiotic before camp can be a good idea to help prevent that. And then in just a general fun camp way, bringing pictures from home to share with all of the new friends that they'll make at camp. Part of the really good stuff about camp is getting to meet people, and getting to meet people who are different than you, different in lots of ways. So sharing about yourself with pictures especially can be really fun for the kids. So to sum up, I'd like to say a big thank you to Novelette Monroe and Jamie Hartley, two of my best friends from Camp Discovery. I've known them for 10 years, and they are fabulous. They helped a lot with information for this talk. And I'd also like to thank all of my friends who have EB for 10 years of fun. Well, 10 years this summer of fun that we've had together at camps. I certainly don't intend to stop anytime soon. And this last slide I'll leave up for just a little bit, has my contact information, email, and office numbers. And then I also included the websites for the AAD, the American Academy of Dermatology summer camps, the Children's Skin Disease Foundation, which puts on Camp Wonder. There's a tab at the top of the web page for Camp Wonder. And then as well, I included a website for the EB Winter Adventure Camp, Camp Spirit.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hill, and thank you all so much for attending our event. This is the first time we're doing something like this, and we really appreciate you supporting us and helping us support the EB community. Right now, we're going to open up all the lines for questions. And if you've come with questions or have listened to Dr. Hill's presentation and thought of some, you're more than welcome to ask those questions at this time. Just raise your hand. Holly, do you have a question?
I don't. I think my hand's up though, and is it up?
That's okay. That's okay.
It was up for a while, and I didn't really mean for it to be. I can't tell if it's up or not from this side.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. We'll take another question then. Does anyone in the audience have a question for Dr. Hill? Okay, well, I have a question. Dr. Hill, do you find that campers return year after year to attend camp? Do any of them ever return as counselors?
Certainly, there are a lot of campers, especially if they start coming when they're young to some of the junior camps. They oftentimes return when they can until they outgrow camp, until they're too old to come as campers. But many of them, especially those who have EB, will transition more into a counselor role. The majority of kids at the AAD, the American Academy summer camps, are not kids with EB, and so it's really great when they do transition roles, because it helps to have kind of role models at camp for some of the younger kids coming in. Sometimes they don't necessarily automatically feel like they can do some things. They might kind of hear about an activity and think, well, that's probably not something for me. That might not be something that I can do. And I assure you, we can make anything work. We have made everything and anything work and be accomplished if there's desire. So the older campers and certainly the people who have come back in a counselor role really help that to be accomplished.
Okay, I think we have one more question here.
And this is Kelly from National Rehab. You had some great suggestions in terms of, items that campers should pack. As a vendor that likes to sometimes provide something for some of these camps, do you have any suggestions for something that someone like us could donate, because you see that it's an item that's typically forgotten but perhaps very well needed?
It varies a lot. A lot of times what happens is one thing gets sort of underpacked, and it's usually a dressing thing, but every now and then, especially if it's something that they use at home for dressing changes, if they change the morning that they leave for camp, then sometimes not everything makes it into the suitcase to go, and so for things like scissors or the needles, that kind of stuff, I think it's a good idea to sort of maybe even buy a different one that just goes to camp, so that you don't sort of forget to pack it at the last minute. But I think I think as far as something that EB nurse could contribute, a lot of times it's just that somebody may run out of a certain type of bandage just because they're not expecting to be as active as they are, be as active as they want to be when they're at camp.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is Christine again from National Rehab. You had mentioned what campers can expect from the cabins. Have you stayed in one of the cabins yourself?
Oh, I've stayed in several of the different cabins, only at the one site. I've only been to the Minnesota site, and at that location, all of the bunks, all of the areas where campers would sleep are air conditioned. There's one bunk area that they are certainly more. They're certainly more like camp mattresses. They're thinner, and they're not like a mattress that you would have on a bed normally. But usually that's not where the campers with EB are assigned. Usually they're assigned to one of the smaller buildings where there are actual beds with mattresses and box springs, that kind of thing. A little bit that's probably because of the bed situation, but also those buildings tend, at least at that location, tend to have more extensive bathroom facilities. So for baths and dressing changes, the bathroom facilities in those cabins are much better. But I've stayed in them all.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Hill, what's involved in becoming a volunteer for one of these camps? Or is it perhaps specific by camp?
For the American Academy of Dermatology camps, on the website there is a tab to a volunteer application. Usually, people will start the volunteer application process in sort of middle spring, so March, April. I think there are some background questions about any medical background, any skin disease background. Many of the volunteers, even if they don't have a medical background, have either they themselves have a skin disease or they have been touched very closely by someone who has a skin disease. They often will ask about experience or certification with resuscitation and CPR and that kind of thing. And I believe that once, and then there's an area to sort of indicate which camps you might prefer to be at or to volunteer through, and you can definitely, that would be the right place to indicate if you wanted to come specifically with a certain camper so that they could match you up. And even though the camp system is relatively broad through the American Academy of Dermatology, it kind of all comes down to one small group of people, and so they do a great job of coordinating sort of those really important things. They're very responsive, they're very attentive, and certainly they also go to great lengths to make sure that that things can get accomplished that make it work for the campers and for the families.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hill.
I guess I would just say, in sort of summary that, this is the kind of stuff I love. Being active, being outside, having fun, really getting to do stuff that, that you don't get to do every day. But I think, even more so than how much I just love it personally, it really changes. It really changes the lives of the campers who get to attend, and that also goes for all of the kids, not just the kids who have EB. I mean, you get to meet people who are similar to you, but you also get to meet people who are different from you. You get to accomplish things that you just really never even considered you would be able to do. And like I said, we have made some amazing things happen. Sometimes it's a little dicey to see if we can make it happen, but we get there, and everyone's always safe, and everyone is always cared for, and it just works, and it just makes such a big difference. The kids are certainly different after they've been to camp.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hill. And thank you so much to everyone for attending today's event. The presentation was brought to you by National Rehab and EB Nurse.